Terraria. Here I am making a brand new character in Terraria, and this is especially exciting because this is my first ever Master Mode playthrough. Considering that I've beaten Calamity Mod, this should be no issue for me, right? Anyway, the run starts like literally any other sandbox game. I destroy a tree and I make a house. When it comes to Terraria, I always try to build my house really quickly, especially if I'm doing a hard run like Calamity or in this case Master Mode, and this is solely because I just want to die less. As you can tell, I don't even bother putting up walls inside my house, because who has time for that anyway? But now it's time to hit a cave, and in Terraria, this is where I'll be most of the time. And also, if you're wondering what the difference between Master Mode Terraria and regular Terraria is, pretty much in Master Mode, all enemies have more health, more knockback, more resistance, and it's just more annoying. But anyway, now I got a head start in exploring and I die. This is going to be a common theme in this video, but since I'm back at spawn, I have an opportunity to progress a little bit further. And then it's back to the cave for me. I need to find and collect a bunch of ores so I'm able to make better swords, weapons, pickaxes, and armor. Unlike Minecraft, progression is very quick and quite easy, unless you're playing Master Mode, where enemies are really hard to defeat. Another great thing about Terraria is when you die, you get to keep all of your stuff. So each death kind of just feels like you're learning more and more, and you want to keep coming back. To me, Terraria is unique because there's always something definitive you can be doing. In my case right now, I need to get substantial armor so I can beat my first boss, being the Eye of Cthulhu. But anyway, look at this thing that I found in the chest. It's a cloud in a bottle and allows me to have a double jump. Mobility in Terraria is very important, and this helps out tremendously, but not enough to keep me from death. I told you, death is going to be very common in this run. I might as well finish up my house and make it look nice, right? So I add this little chandelier and I add some walls. Decent enough for now. Also, Terraria has a bunch of NPCs. These can be used to buy new items, upgrade your equipment, and a bunch of other things. In order to get them to come to your world, you need to build housing for them. So that is what I'm doing right here. You know, it's nothing 5-star, but it gets the job done. Now it's back to digging, and my only goal is to get a full set of armor. I'm going to settle on iron armor because it's the easiest to get, since iron is pretty common. However, I die to a stupid black slime. But this gives me the opportunity to meet my new NPCs. I also upgrade myself to an iron broadsword, as well as 2 pieces of iron armor. It's nothing to celebrate over yet, I am still very, very weak. But that's okay, because soon I'll be very, very strong. You are just gonna have to wait and see. Anyway, I'm shooting for an immediate upgrade. This time, I'm going after tungsten. And by the time I'm finally able to get the last piece of iron armor, I'm already buying tungsten armor. I'm aware that it's not the best idea to mix armor sets because you don't get the set bonus, but honestly, the defense is already so low it barely makes a difference. I begin heading left into my world, and I come across this giant tree. Within these trees, there are always some chests with some decent loot in them. There's also sometimes one underground, which provides the same decent loot. At the very bottom of the tree, it spits me out into a cave, which I begin exploring. In this cave, I find some shoe spikes, which allow me to slide down walls. I also come across the mushroom biome, which is glowing this beautiful blue color. I was lucky enough to stumble across 2 chests, both of which being extremely useful. I found these boots, and these allow me to run faster. When I get back, I craft the tungsten chest plate, which completes my second set of armor. And I get greedy, because now I want a gold set. But for right now, I expand the NPC housing, and I use this gravitation potion I found in a cave to explore the sky. This is because I'm looking for a sky island so I can get the star fury. And on my second island, I find one. Yippee! My gravitation potion ran out and left me in the middle of the jungle, so I figured I might as well explore it. I personally really enjoy exploring the underground jungle. I find it to be so beautiful down here. However, the threat posed by these monsters down here was just not something I could handle. If I pursued these enemies, I would die instantly, but I escaped death just as I'm about to die of poison. Either way, it's time to get more gold from the caves. Exploring underground at Terraria can be so much fun, but it also can make you lose track of time. However, even though we're just shy of 4 minutes into this video, I still feel like the progress I've made so far is pretty good, but I'll let you all be the judge of that in the comments. Please let me know how I do in this video. Anyways, I get bored of exploring for gold, and I go try to find some more sky islands. And ironically, this island had a bunch of gold on it. And once I get back to my base, I begin building an arena. Building an arena like this allows for boss fights to be much, much easier. And since I'm just on the cusp of being comfortable of fighting the Eye of Cthulhu, I begin construction. Plus, you never know when a goblin army is going to invade you. I then set off on an expedition to get the rest of the heart crystals I need, and before long, I managed to achieve just that. So for now, I'm just locked in on getting some more gold, and this allows me to craft a full set of gold armor. Well, kind of. I'm short a few pieces. And just as I'm about to go get some more, slime starts falling from the sky. Pretty much all this means is when I kill enough slimes, the king slime will spawn, which will end up being my first boss. And honestly, before I know it, he pulls up, and I'm thrown right into the boss fight. The King Slime is the easiest boss in Terraria, but since I've never played him in Master Mode before, I have no idea how this is going to go. I just try my best to mow him down with the Star Fury, and honestly it does a pretty good job. The thing about the King Slime is the more damage you do to him, the smaller he gets, making him more fast. But honestly, I'm a little overpowered for this boss right now, so I mow through him no problem. I think my favorite thing about Master Mode is the relics that the bosses drop. This is something that is exclusive to Master Mode, and I have always loved the way they look. I unfortunately did not get the slime mount from the boss, but that's no problem. Anyways, I run down into a cave and quickly grab my last pieces of gold. This way I can craft the leggings and complete my gold set of armor. Since I just beat the King Slime no issue, I decide that it's time to fight the Eye of Cthulhu. However, at the start of the fight, I do not realize that I'm wearing my tungsten armor instead of my gold armor, but I do eventually notice and switch. This boss fight is kinda super very easy, until the Eye of Cthulhu reaches half health. This is when the Eye of Cthulhu opens up and starts chasing you crazy style, and the further you get into the fight, the more often it charges at you, but since I'm an elite gamer, it was not hard at all. I decide to spawn another one in, since my buffs are still active for the most part, and same as before, this poses zero threat to me. I open up the goodie bags, and I get something that is going to last me the rest of the run. This is the Shield of Cthulhu, and it allows me to dash. Very useful. I suppose my confidence was soaring, because I immediately went to go fight the Eater of Worlds. And unlike the Eye of Cthulhu, this did not go well. The way I built this arena really limited my movement, and as I mentioned before, movement is very important in Terraria. This caused me to take way too much damage, and I died. With my confidence still standing high, I decide to make a bigger arena with better buffs and whatnot. This fight goes a little bit better, and I get him down to half health, but I unfortunately die again. It's no biggie though, because this ultimately was a wake-up call. When I play regular Terraria, I am able to get away with bad strategy since the bosses are not too hard. But in Master Mode, bosses require actual strategy, and I realize that I actually have to lock in and make this arena playable. On my third attempt, I am able to absolutely annihilate this boss. Movement is so easy and I'm able to get around and actually avoid its attacks, and this allowed me to swiftly take down this boss. Inside the goodie bag was something useful called a worm scarf. Also, I am able to craft shadow armor. However, I would have been short materials, but fortunately I was able to get an ancient shadow helmet that was dropped by something in the corruption. I also craft a light's bane, which is an ingredient for the knight's edge. I'll get into that later. For now, it's time for a little bit of exploration, and this involves going literally everywhere. I make it all the way to the right in my world, and I did not find the dungeon. So I go back a little bit, but make a quick pit stop into the jungle. Now is the time for me to really explore this underground, but my plans were quickly foiled by an explosive chest. I have no idea how I did not notice. I go back to the jungle and I keep exploring. I found this weird crab spawner, and I keep going down. And I do eventually end up in hell. Within seconds of touching down in the underworld, I am harassed by a bone serpent and I die. When I'm back at my house, I decide to expand my NPC housing even more. It looks very beautiful, wouldn't you agree? I then extinguish my boredom with yet another Eye of Cthulhu fight. Shout out to all the kids like 7 years ago who had the Eye of Cthulhu plushie. I was one of them. Once that fun was done with, oh my god, I can't say it. Once that fun was done with, I decide that it's time to start making my elevator. And by digging, I mean exploding. Pretty much the idea is to just have a giant tunnel that connects me straight to the underworld, so I can just jump in and fall all the way down. There are a couple hiccups along the way, but I do eventually get there. Now comes the fun part. I just need to mine some Hellstone, so I can get the next set of armor, which will end up being the best set of armor I can get in pre-hard mode. If you don't have an obsidian skin potion, this is always a long and tedious process. I do not feel like getting one, so I'm here for a while. And in the middle of trying to collect some resources, I die. And when I respawn at my house, I am greeted by a humble goblin army. Yay. Fighting these guys was literally zero fun whatsoever. But I am literally God's gift to gaming, and I do not die a single time. Just kidding. I only had to tank one death. And this is nothing compared to the pirate army I will experience in the next video. Oh yeah, by the way, this video is getting split up into two. One in pre-hard mode and one into hard mode. Pretty please subscribe so you see the next one. Excuse me. For whatever reason, I forget that I'm getting some Hellstone, and I go straight to fight Skeletron. This is because I want the Muramasa so I can make the Knight's Edge. I guess I should probably explain what the Knight Edge is now. But I am not doing all that, you can just look it up. The fight commences, and I quickly realize that I accidentally made the platforms a little too tall. I cannot jump up and get to the next one. This causes me to have a little bit of mobility issues, and I tank way too much damage, and I die pretty quickly. Not to mention, my damage output was so terrible that I really never stood a chance to begin with. I believe now is time to lock in again and get some better gear. I then went to finally get the rest of the Hellstone that I needed to make my full set of armor. I get back to my beautiful abode and I craft the armor set, as well as a pickaxe and the fiery greatsword, which is another ingredient for the Knight's Edge. With my new stuff, I try Skeletron again, and it was to no avail. I was just about to die, so I used the potion of return to go back to my base. When I returned back to the dungeon, I just decided to hop on in and see how far I can get. Obviously, nothing good happened. I now fled to the jungle in hopes of finding a beetle beehive. The idea was to get something like the bee's knees or the bee gun so that I can have an effective ranged weapon against Skeletron. Before I ended up finding a beehive, I actually found the Goblin Tinkerer, who is a very useful NPC. He sells rocket boots and a Tinkerer's Workshop, which I both bought immediately. I used a potion of return to go back to my base. Now I can use the Tinkerer's Workshop to make Spectre boots. Look how amazing these things are. I also managed to find a beehive, but my luck quickly gets spoiled when I accidentally summon the Queen Bee. I never even had a chance to make preparations or set up an arena. But it is so amazing that I am me, because I managed to take down the Queen Bee even though I didn't have any preparations. I managed to get down the Queen Bee to a very low amount of health, and then I dip. This cheesy little strategy that I accidentally did allowed me to heal from the nurse, and the Queen Bee didn't ever despawn, meaning that she would just fly all the way over to where I am right now. I personally had no idea that the Queen Bee did not despawn, but fortunately for me, it allowed me to take her down. And I also managed to pull a beekeeper from the goodie bag. This was pretty much a sword that whenever I hit something, bees spawned. While it's not the ultra awesome ranged weapon that I had in mind, it's still pretty helpful. It's now back to the jungle for me because I want to find more beehives. I also intend to find an Anklet of the Wind because this can be used to upgrade my Spectre boots into lightning boots. And after a long and painful exploration, I finally found it. Apparently it's also a blood moon, but I do craft the lightning boots. I then start the exploration for finding some ice skates so that I can upgrade my lightning boots once again. But little did I know this grind was going to be impossible. And based off of what I just said, you can already deduct that I did not find it. And for that matter, I didn't find a single chest down here. However, I did find this death. Upon my respawn, I decided that I wanted to upgrade my house. All I knew is that I wanted to have a place to put my chests and a place to put my trophies. As building commenced, the more I knew that I had no idea what I actually thought this house was going to look like. You would think that after playing Minecraft so much, I would learn that I am unable to come up with a creative house design, but nope, that's not the case. Instead, I went on to completely build this arguably ugly house. And you know what? It could honestly be so much worse. Now, I don't think that this house is a 10 out of 10, but at the very least, I think it's like a 3 out of 10, and I'll take that. Anyways, I foolishly go back to trying to find ice skates, and it's also to no avail, so I legitimately start fishing for the item. I really don't know what the thought process here was. Guess how long I was fishing for, and guess how many crates I actually pulled. I stayed here for 3 hours, and I pulled 1 snow crate. I guess that goes to show that I have no idea how fishing works in this game. I suppose my senses were coming over to me, and I realized that I should probably be fighting Skeletron, but literally once I summon him, the blood moon starts. I do not beat him. So I then hustle all the way back to the jungle in order to find another beehive, because I really do need one of those ranged weapons to beat him. So I do eventually find a beehive, and I set up a cheeky little arena. This time, the fight pretty much went exactly as it did last time. I got it down to a very low amount of health, and then I teleported back, used the nurse, and then killed the Queen Bee. This time, my glorious queen dropped the bee's knees, something that I was looking for. Now I am able to efficiently shart all over Skeletron. Taking down his hands was the tricky part, but honestly, dodging everything was not so bad. Once his hands went down, so did his head, and now the dungeon was unlocked. I've been hyping up the Night's Edge for almost this entire video, so now it is time to finally get the Muramasa and be able to make one. The only way you can get a Muramasa is if you find one in a gold chest, and all these gold chests are locked. The way to get a key to unlock them is by killing slimes inside of a dungeon that have gold keys inside of them. I don't know, there's probably another way, but that's the only way I know. And fortunately for me, I ended up getting a Muramasa on only the second gold chest I opened. So now it is time to craft the Night's Edge, and the crafting station you need to be able to craft it is one of these demon altars. Now look. How awesome is this? To be fair, it doesn't really live up to the hype because the method I'm going to use to kill a wall of flesh doesn't require it. It'll more so come handy in the next video. Anyways, I begin construction on a bridge in the underworld so that I have easy mobility in fighting the wall of flesh. I build a nearly 2,000 block bridge all the way to the right. I literally make it past the jungle biome, and once I make it this far, I buff up and I spawn the wall of flesh. I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be to dodge all of its attacks, and for this reason, I suffered. The bee's knees that I had actually did quite a bit of damage, and it helped in taking down the Hungries, but the overall damage that was being done just was not enough for the amount of damage I was taking, and I die by the hands of the wall of flesh, or in this case, by the Hungries. It's really nothing to get upset over because I instantly came up with a better idea. I bridged all the way out to the left using a solid block like this cobblestone. I then went back to the crib and stocked up on a bunch of dynamite. I think you see where I'm going with this. It was now time to get revenge on the wall wall of flesh, and I really did just that. I believe this is a method that speedrunners used to use, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I have done this before in regular runs, and it works really well. As you can see, look how fast his health is ticking down. Within literally 25 seconds, his health is already down to about half. This fight is completely in my favor. All I have to do is focus on not dying and continue to throw my dynamite. This method ended up working extremely well, however, it was kind of an anticlimactic finish, because just like that, he was dead. I was a little worried that all of my loot would fall into lava, but fortunately it all fell onto this building and it was safe. Just like that, the wall of flesh was no more, and I am put into hard mode. The stuff dropped by the goodie bag was very useful. This demon heart allows me to have another equipment slot, and this pawn hammer allows me to get hard mode ore. Pre-hard mode proved to be no big challenge at all. But can the same be said for hard mode? I guess you're just gonna have to wait and see. Spoiler alert, it is a big challenge.